Okay, you're on.
So the other thing about that package that Sue sent, which is called Self-Hosted 3.0 Goodies, and we'll start this conversation about why this is even happening. And so we keep revisiting the same idea, but we're pushing towards changing the plugin package to make it easier to make, easier to upload, so you don't need anybody to approve it. Just more structured, kind of everything in terms of how a plugin works. And so this meeting's going to be about exactly that, kind of the way the new plugin works in terms of the control panel, not in terms of iOS or Android. Today's conversation has nothing to do with iOS or Android. It only has to do with the control panel and what needed to change and what has changed to support this new approach and some improvements that we're able to make that are just kind of cool. So all of the stuff that we explore today will be out kind of in an official way when the 3.0 self-hosted comes out. These files will be included in that release, but certainly they're going to probably change between now and then. So the stuff that you have and the stuff that we're looking at today, just it's exploring stuff. And so it's already changed. Like Sue said, I sent her a zip, 10 minutes ago. Then I sent her one 5 minutes ago. I said, no, do this one. This stuff changes pretty fast. So first, we're going to look at the control panel and talk about and demonstrate kind of what I'm referring to, and then we'll open up some code and show you how it works. So this screens list, I've got a control panel going. Am I sharing my screen, by the way?
Oh no, no, that's my fault. I need to send you the.
No, let me get my
I
screen
need to
going
get you
here.
on the screen here.
Share screen.
There you go.
Here we go.
Sorry about that.
So let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it now.
Okay, cool. So this is just a demo control panel that I use that is, constantly changing and evolving and all that kind of stuff. And this is our screens list, just like you have now. So one important thing to know is this has not changed because we don't want to break your self-hosted stuff while we explore these new things. And so you don't want to change your screens.php page until we're sure that this is kind of how we want it and we understand what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just showing you this to let you know that the package that you have in your email does not include a new btscreens.php file. The release, the next self-hosted package will include a new version that looks like this, pretty close to the same thing with a couple of changes. And in the package, we just called it screens3.php. So I just entered the 3 in there to get to that. There are no links to that file. Once you upload it to your server, you're going to have to actually manually type in that 3 to get to it. And again, we don't want your customers and your clients to be, playing with this stuff yet. And so screens.php has not changed. Screens3.php has. So this screen itself isn't a whole lot different than the previous version, but there are a couple of different improvements. And one improvement I want to show you is, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, if you had, let's say, your screen sorted by action type or sorted by modified date, and then you left, you went to another screen or you logged out or you came back to your control panel, when you came back to this screen, it wasn't sorted the same way it was before. It wasn't filtered the same way it was before. And if you've got hundreds and hundreds of screens, it's challenging sometimes to kind of get it back in the state it was in. So the cool thing is, if I go to this screen and again,
Yeah. Remember to mute themselves. If you don't mute yourself, then I'll have to mute you, and then you won't be able to talk at all if I have to mute.
Yeah, I don't know how to. I'm not muting everybody. Anyway, I just want you guys to notice this, that if I change this to, let's sort them by the nickname, just for fun. So I've got nickname sorted instead of modified. And I log out of this account. And let me not log out. Let me just go to layout. And I leave that screen and I come back to it. You'll notice it's still sorted the same way. That might not be significant to people who don't spend a lot of time on this screen, but remembering the state that you left the screen is hugely, hugely a time saver when you're dealing with lots of things. And so that's a big improvement. And you won't really notice that nuance until you start playing with it, but I wanted you to know that that's different about it. The other thing that's different about it is you might notice this little icon on the left. So in the list view, there's a little code icon on the left, and in the grid view, there's a little code icon in the bottom right-hand corner of the icon for the screen or the plugin. So clicking that does something cool, and I'm not going to click it yet because I want to show you some other stuff. But that is different. That's a new little icon there. And so the screens3.php page is changing, and we want to make sure that we're working with the screens3.php page when you're exploring this on your own self-hosted file. So let's see what changed about an actual plugin. So I'm going to click Menu Home, and I want to show you that this screen doesn't look a whole lot different. It's kind of what we're used to, but there are some enhancements. So this plugin page, and this is the kind of the whole concept that we're talking about today. This plugin page, it's called BT Screen. That's singular, not plural. .php. If you remember the older version, and let's demonstrate that. Let's go back to the older version. When you were working with a screen on the older version and you were working with a particular plugin, you actually were on a file in that plugin directory. So we're here and we're files, plugins, BT Screen menu simple, right? We've gone all the way to the directory that holds this actual plugin. And the developer who made the plugin was responsible for making the index.php page to make this work. Well now, so I've got two windows open here, that one and our new one. So now we're not in the plugin directory, right? So when you load and you work on a screen, you're always going to land on btscreen.php. And that's important because that means that the developer doesn't have to make it. In fact, the plugin developer can't make it because it's included in the self-hosted package now, and there is no requirement now for a plugin package to have a web page to manage the plugin. And that was a big issue that we had, is somebody would want to make something cool for iOS or Android, but they didn't have the skill or the understanding to make the web page. So now you don't have to. So if you're going to make a plugin, don't have to make a web page. It's awesome. However, there is a need to customize this web page. So your plugin might not have all of these sections, right? Your plugin might have only 3 sections or 2 sections or no sections. And so there needed to be a way to allow you to customize screen.php or leave it kind of in the standard way when you were making a plugin. So we'll show you how to do that, and we'll kind of talk about that. But let's go back to some of the improvements here on this screen. And the most significant one is this JSON data section at the bottom. This is entirely new. And this is the JSON data for this screen in its raw format. And it's useful to have it here because you can edit it here. And you can paste JSON data into this box for this screen, and it will work perfectly. And I'll give you an example of that. So let's say that we wanted to not hide the bottom tab bar on this particular screen. We're all used to making a selection here and saying, you know, yes or no or whatever, and hitting save. So we'll hit save. And we just used the form as we've been using it all along, no problem. And we didn't change this JSON down here manually. We used the form. In fact, if I had this set hidden, you wouldn't even have noticed. Right? This is the way it's always been. No big deal. But this new section now allows us to edit this here also. So let's say I just wanted to edit this manually. Right? Watch this tab bar drop-down list change when I save this data. See how that changes for us? So if I change this manually or using the form, I get the same results. Then you might ask, you know, why is that important? As a developer, there's a bunch of reasons that's important. I'll give you one classic. Let's say I want to use this same JSON data in another screen. What if I want to have a menu that's exactly like that menu? Well, I can load the other menu, and I can paste it in here. Now we have matching screens, right? Without making 50 different selections. It's super, super flexible that way. And so All of the choices in our form elements are selected like we want. But we did that not by making 50 choices. We did it by just pasting some JSON data in there. So that's a significant improvement over the previous version where you had to use the form. And so for developers and people who make plugins, this will be way faster to manipulate the data on each screen, which is really kind of cool. I'm super stoked about this one. That takes us to another idea, which relates to this little icon right here. We just talked about manually working with JSON data. Turns out a lot of people want to. Turns out also that a lot of people don't want to leave this screen to change the properties of another screen. Right? So when we click this, we're leaving that screen and we're coming here and then we got to go back. It's kind of tedious. And so if you just wanted to change, say, quickly the, I don't know, the navigation or the nav bar title or some property that you're aware of, you could just click this little code button and you have the raw JSON right here for that screen. You can save it and then you can close it and you're right back where you were. So you have that raw data available to you really, really like easily. And so if you're looking at list view, it's the icons on the left. So the Yahoo screen, I can click the Yahoo screen. Here's the JSON for that screen. And again, now think about the copy-paste idea, right? Maybe I want this menu and this menu to be the same. Well, I can just copy this, open this one, do this, and paste it in and hit save. And so that flexibility is really, really cool, actually. It's super cool. So fundamentally on the back end, the database, none of that changed. It's just the way that we can interact with the data. It's just the way that we can interact with the data. And so for non-developers and for people who kind of don't get it, it's important that we embrace the idea that they do need to use the form field. You know, it's important that we provide this stuff because lots and lots of our audience and people who are working with plugins that you guys make, they absolutely need the form. You know, they don't understand how to manipulate this JSON data. And so that's really, really cool. So let's talk about child items. You might notice somebody.
Hey, David, hi, it's Niraj.
Oh, hey, Niraj.
Hey, so I know you're going to go into child items, but so is this one of the methods by which we can switch from a plugin to another plugin but retain that same data set?
It's a fantastic question. The answer is no. but it now becomes, and there's a lot of technical reasons for that, but it now becomes elementary to make another screen, hit save, open up the little box, and paste the JSON in. So it's a lot faster to do what you just talked about, change the plugin type. And really what you would probably do is you would probably, to change this menu home to, say, a menu advanced, where you know that the plugin who made menu advanced kind of used a lot of the same properties.
Right,
what you would do is make a menu advanced, copy its JSON, paste it in, and then delete the previous one. So it's a step in that direction, but this will not let you change the item type in the JSON. It'll yell at you. Like if I change this item ID right here, watch what happens. See, it tells you there's an error. And the little notes tell you the item type and the item ID are kind of off limits. You know, once they're set, you don't want to be manipulating that stuff. And so we'll have to trust that people kind of understand that. And people who don't mess with JSON aren't going to be affected by this. But people who do mess with JSON certainly have to have an understanding of what they're doing. So there's kind of a balancing act between being flexible and being kind of bulletproof or whatever. So that's an exciting one. So let's go back to our menu and let's talk about child items. Whoops. Child items are very much kind of under construction right now anyway, but you'll notice down here in this data, there are no child items on this screen, which is a menu, and you might have asked yourself, well, where are they? Right? When it's in your config file in the app, I mean in the project, it looks something like this. Right? And you've got an array of items here, a big long array of menu items or pictures or something like that. This bottom box is not meant to be pasting arrays of things in. It's simple property and value pairs, right? Which 99% of apps, you know, that's the important thing. But child items are also important, but I want to make sure we all are on the same page and that they're definitely separate. They're definitely a separate thing. And so if a plugin uses child items, then just like we're used to, it will have its own little child items section. And so we don't want to be pasting child items down here. So let's talk about the child items section, which, like I said, it's under construction. But this is a menu, so this is very much like you would expect it to be, except for there's one new improvement. So it, it takes you to the screen. You want to load the other screen. But notice here, it also has the JSON icon next to each row. So if you want to manually change the JSON for a child item, and again, I use the word manually, you have the same opportunity to do that without leaving the screen, which is cool. And so another improvement to where it's kind of a workflow benefit, and I think that it will definitely it'll definitely cause a lot of questions and a lot of problems. It will certainly let people break their apps, right? We all have to just kind of understand that, with flexibility also comes new problems, and so we're just going to have to deal with that. But fundamentally, we've just decided that, you know what, people want to mess with this JSON by themselves, no problem. Let's let them. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about now the plugin package. This is kind of the goal, right? My plugin, off we go. So I'm going to open up, I've got a bunch of stuff to show here. I'm going to open up my little Dreamweaver environment that I use, and I'm going to show you that in screen, I don't know, HTML doc. I don't know if you can see this very well or not, but this is the standard set of files in a plugin today. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. And so what we're going to do is we're going to not use this index.php page. We're not going to use the savejson.php page. Those are just not going to be included. So instead of having a web page in your plugin package, you're going to have, in essence, a set of instructions. And those instructions are going to be, oh, I've got them over here. Let me open them up. Let's look in my little simple menu. I've got them here. The instructions are going to be config underbar cp.text. This is configuration control panel. So if you want to customize the sections in the control panel, this is how you're going to do it. So all this does is tell the software what order, I know I got a lot of stuff open here, what order to render each of these sections. Or what order at all. Like maybe you don't have a data URL in your plugin, so you would not have that section. If I remove that data URL, right, or I move login, or I remove ads. Oh, nice crash, Dreamweaver. Anyway, my point is we use a simple text file in our plugin package to describe what section should be showing. Let me go back and find it here. Where were we? Menu simple. Yeah, config. Okay, so if we wanted to not have a login, or not have an advertisement section, or not have a search section, we would manipulate this configuration file. And then when the screen builds itself, it will not include those, right? We just took those out. Maybe we don't have a child items in our plugin. We just don't have that section. So you can see how we control each of these individual sections by using the configuration file now and not writing PHP and HTML and all that kind of stuff. However, let's go back with that concept. We might have, in fact, we're always going to have a case where we do need to include our own custom section. That's normal, right? If I've got a plugin that says, play my tic-tac-toe game, certainly I would need a section called, tic-tac-toe graphics or something like that. So I would need to introduce a new section. So the way that we do that now is in your plugin folder, you certainly would have to make the new section, and it would just be a little HTML file, like I've got one in here called custom section 1. So you can have as many as you want. And these custom sections are inserted into the plugin screen. Let's put it right above the child items. So this is a custom section, and its file name is custom section1.html. Maybe I also want to do custom section2. We'll include these in our plugin. So now when the plugin loads, oh, missing. Did I typo something? Where are they? Maybe I didn't upload them. Niraj has got an eagle eye. He'll see a typo for me. There they are. So now we have section 1. And now we have section 2. And if I put something in this box, and I hit save, you'll notice down in our JSON data, it magically appears. I can go down here and change it again. Hit save. And it's changed. So we have this flexible way now to add JSON properties and custom sections and all that without writing any PHP. No need to write PHP. It's just HTML, straight up HTML. So that's really, really kind of cool, and I'm super stoked about it. But let's revisit the idea of why. Why is this important? The reason it's important is if you guys put a plugin package and make it available to somebody, we have to ensure a couple of things, work to the best degree possible, right? So people who have made plugins so far have really struggled with the index.php page, and that was a huge problem why these things just didn't work. So we've removed that. That's one big benefit. Another big benefit that you've heard me talk about is making PHP pages, allowing people to make PHP pages and put them in the plugin directory also allows people to do things harmful, accidentally or intentionally. And if you install a plugin on your control panel, you don't want to be worried about the developer making a mistake and causing a bunch of damage to your database or to your file system or something like that. And so that can no longer happen. So that's fantastic. A third thing that's a little bit nerdy, but it's important to talk about, is this idea of the file system permission settings on your self-hosted server. Right now, when you upload a file, a package, a plugin, that file has to be able to have executable permissions because it includes PHP. And people don't necessarily know what that means or how to adjust it, or they'll upload a plugin and it won't work, and it's just a big problem. And so now that plugin folder doesn't need to have any special privileges because it's not executing PHP. And if you understand what that means, then you definitely understand why that's cool and important and just better. If you don't understand what it means, just know that it's a big improvement and something that should have kind of happened a long time ago. And so really your plugin package either got way simpler because you didn't do any of this and it just uses the standard properties, there's nothing custom about it, or it got really, really flexible because you can add and remove these sections at will without writing big, long, heavy, giant web pages. So that's kind of cool. So let's now talk about the files that you got in your goodies. I sent you, or Sue sent you, a zip with all of the files necessary to make this work in your control panel. And really, all you're going to be doing is uploading these files to the proper directories, and the README in that zip is the best I could do to explain to you. 4 files go here, 2 files go here, couple files go there, and so that just explains. And all you're going to do is upload them to your server, and you're going to start kind of experimenting and playing with what we've done. And so we covered all of that in 30 minutes, and I know I went really fast, and you're not, I think, ultimately going to be able to kind of appreciate what it is until you start playing with it a little bit. The child item stuff is definitely not done. It's kind of a work in progress. There's a lot of issues with child items because child items are different. We don't know what kind of screen you're going to make, so it's very, very difficult to know how to build that in. right? So if your plugin's going to have child items in it, then you're always going to have your own little custom child items section, like this one here. And I've given you that file that I made so you can explore how I've done it. But really, all you're doing is you're saying, because remember, we don't do PHP anymore. You're saying use JavaScript to go get those child items, and then you're building that table with JavaScript instead of PHP. So it's not complicated, but it's a little bit of longer code in that section, and I gave it to you so you could look at how I've done it. When you make your own section, you can do anything you want, but that's kind of the goal there. So I think we probably created a million questions right then, and I've got so many things I want to do to this that I just wasn't able to finish and give to you. A couple of things that really come to mind is, like on the screens page here, you should be able to add more than one of these, right? You should be able to say add 10 of these. That's a big benefit if you could just add 10 at a time. Another one is this paging idea. When you get a lot of screens, it shouldn't be paging, you know, next page, next page, next page. It should just be load more, 20, 20, 20, 20, right? So you have a long list. Because remember, now we can manipulate these properties without leaving this screen. So if my list is really long, well then, why am I having to page around? And so there's definitely some room for improvements, but it's just a constant evolution, right? So let's Smug saying, for us self-hosted, can we place these custom files? I'm just going to start reading these questions. I know there's a ton of them, and then we'll start talking about it. So we'll start at the bottom and move up. For us self-hosted, can we place these custom files in the same area as the others? That's a fantastic question. So let's explore. Right now, Smug, that wasn't the idea, but because you're asking it, that makes tons of sense. So maybe what we should do, and this is the joy of all of us kind of exploring these things together. Right now, this descriptor file tells the control panel where the section is, right? So if it's a file type BT section, then it looks for it in the includes file. If it's a custom section, then it looks for it in your plugin. What Smug asked is maybe we should be able to have a global section that you make that then you can include. And my first response was, yeah, you could do something like this. I should say we could do something like this. We could have a new file type and called, you know, custom section global or something like that. And that would tell the system to look for this file in the includes directory. The problem with that, though, Smug, is not everybody's going to have that file. And so if you made a plugin, only you that use the global thing that you made, then no one else would be able to use that. I'm not sure how we would work that through, but that's a fantastic idea, and we got to we should explore that because we definitely want it flexible. Mirage, I'm blown away, yay! So do any of you need the files? I have the developer, you already have them. Okay, that's Susan. Chris saying, prepare to have your mind blown. Yeah, I'm super proud of this. You can't imagine, it looks simple, but there's a lot going on here. And to do what we're doing, I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it. So nav bar, going up here. Don't see any other questions on here. Yeah, they keep coming in, but I'm scrolling up and they're scrolling down. So Thomas is just saying, hey, I'll just say yay. I'm going to see Thomas in the UK. I'd like to say tomorrow, but I'll be there on Friday because I lose a day going. So yeah, that's what we've given you. I'm gonna do everything I possibly can on the plane to get the biggest hitch right now is this child items thing. It's not quite right. The child items needs improvement because it's not as flexible it needs to be for you making a plugin. And I spent several days making a generic child items section that would just kind of work on any screen that had child items, but it turned out to just be a giant waste of time because every screen's different. I mean, if your child items are quiz questions and my child items are race cars, and I'm picking, you know, whatever race cars, well, the properties of each of those are going to be different. And so you can't show a generic child items list if you don't know in advance what they are. So basically, you're going to use the JavaScript API to say, hey, go get me the child items. I know what they are, and then I'll build the HTML because I know what they are. So that's kind of where we are now, and that's why I included that section for you. Andy's saying, can we use the JSON box to add custom JSON not in that section? That's a fantastic question, and the answer is totally. Let's say that you wanted to include, I'll use the famous first name example. Let's say you want to include something here called first name and last name, and only you would know why you were doing this, right? The plugin developer wouldn't have any idea why you're typing these arbitrary values in this box. But if it's valid JSON and you saved it, it's fine. And when you come back to this screen, it's still there. Now, there are no sections in terms of form field elements to pre-populate for you because they don't exist. But you can absolutely type arbitrary values in here. And that's really, really important. Really important. Think about working with a developer who made a plugin who maybe improves the plugin, the iOS code, but maybe doesn't improve the control panel package or something. You might say, in an email, he might say, hey, enter, high score max 100 or 300 or whatever in your control panel, and it would just work, right? Or think about what I use it for. This is really the way it works, is when you're making a plugin, you don't yet know all of the dynamic properties you're going to let people manipulate. So if you start with this, then it'll okay, cool. These are the things I'm going to let people manipulate. Now I'll make my little sections to allow them to do it, manually or whatever. So, and then lastly is maybe you just don't even want to make a web page. Maybe your plugin is just raw data, and in your instructions say, hey, paste this in. Or think of examples like in the README where you can give them a sample, and you can say, hey, paste this in and see how awesome it looks. You're not telling them, choose this, choose this, choose this, choose this. You just say, use this as an example. And so you can do a lot of different flexible things. And so, of course, we've got all kinds of ideas kind of behind the scenes in terms of why we're doing this that a lot of people don't even really recognize. Think about ideas like sharing screens. Think about ideas like copying and duplicating screens. Think about ideas that, have kind of been in the conversation for a long time, but not really possible with the way that we had set it up before, because everything relied on that web page. And so now that you don't have to make the web page and it's more structured, it should allow us to do lots and lots of different, create lots of different new functionality that's just a whole lot easier. So super cool. And this is, again, not related to the way the project works on the phone. This is just related to the way that the control panel works. The screen's a screen. Can I say that twice? This is the one that I have kind of the most plans for. But I just wasn't able to. I wanted to get this in your hands before we kind of keep changing it. But when 3.0 comes out, this will be different. This will be better than it is now. You'll still have these features that I've just showed you, but there's some new improvements that really, really are cool that I'll be getting out. So that's kind of cool.
PSM Danny's got a good question here, but because there's all these custom plugins out there in the wild, and is it possible to have that screens and screens 3 have that be 2 different screens so that we can keep using those old plugins without having to update?
That's a fantastic question. Now, right now, of course, first off, since it's self-hosted, you can do anything you want. Of course. I mean, there's no rules around how you use this open source software we've given you. So technically, yeah, do whatever you want. But making that easy, I think, is a better question. And he's saying, why would we want to embrace this new thing when we have these custom plugins? So I do need to take them to the PHP page. Yeah, I mean, maybe together we can figure out a better way to do that. I'm not sure. I mean,
like you might have an app that you made 2 years ago for a client that you haven't touched in 2 years, and then when you update your server, then you can't actually make any changes to their plugins until you fix your custom plugins. Right?
So let's slow down and think about that again. Yes, that makes perfect sense. So you're saying if you have a plugin that's like maybe not in the market, didn't come from BuzzTouch, it's just some cool thing that runs out of the index.php page right out of the plugin folder, like it does today. We're saying, how would we then get to that screen?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we're starting on screens 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's say this was updated, right? Let's say this was updated, and it went to screens 3. Yeah, I guess what we could do, there's a couple different ways to do it. I guess what I would probably do if it were me and I wanted to allow that on my self-hosted panel, or maybe we do it globally, I don't know. You see how you have add new, list view, grid view? Maybe we have another option here called, I don't know. Well, I mean, what would you call it?
Yeah,
It'd just be a
I
link.
don't think it's a very common problem. I think it probably affects a few dozen people. So I think it
Yeah,
could be something that be like a low tech solution, like you have to type in 3 behind BT screens to access the old file that still is residing in
okay.
the updates. So there could be like some kind of manual instructions, I think, just so that you could get to it. I don't know
Yeah,
what PSM. I don't know what PSM Danny thinks. That's his question, but
yeah, old view, legacy view. Here's how I would do it, and you don't need to write code to do this. If you remember, I always forget this because I rarely use it. There's a menu on the left that will take us to screens. In this case, this will take us to our old screen because it's, not screens 3 or whatever. This is completely customizable in the control panel. The items that show across the top here are also customizable in the control panel. Let me show you what I mean. If I go to admin and I go to manage, where are they? Control panel links. It's not the account section, it's not the admin section, it's the application section. So right now this one's called screens and it goes here, right? So what we could do in our control panel, if we really wanted to, if we could add a new one, and we could call it screens v3 or something, and we could link it to screens 3. We could say submit. I'm just doing this right in the control panel. Now it's kind of out of order. So I want this one to be like 5 or something, so it's next to the other one. Yeah, so we've got, maybe make it 4. Yeah, so we've got screens and then screens 3.0. So now when I go to apps, now we have screens, which is our old one, and we have screens 3.0, which is our new one.
yeah.
Right,
So
so
if
that's
it gives a file, if it gives a file for the old and the new in the package, then we're set really, and we can add it ourselves.
So maybe there's some exploring and some engineering that needs to be done there to help people understand like what that is. Maybe it's called custom plugin. I don't know. I agree that makes sense, but I'm just trying to figure out how to make it more understandable for people who don't know what the heck they're doing. You know what I mean? I'm going to take that out for now because I'm going to get confused. Control panel links. I always forget about that thing. I made it like so darn long ago.
There's a lot of nice features in the self-hosted that you made. Boy, you done a lot of things and a lot of little.
Yeah, it makes it definitely makes a big difference. It's hard. The challenge that I have is I'm such a code guy that I don't work with interfaces like this, and I just type manual URLs, and I don't click things. I just type things, and so it's hard for me to keep the mind of someone who doesn't know what's happening. So those links are definitely there. But yeah, so that would be cool. PSM Danny's doing a lot of great things that we're trying to on the self-hosted panel too, and we got to before 3.0 comes out. He and I have been trying to figure out ways to get some of his improvements baked into this.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and we definitely have to do that. It's hard for him to know what I'm doing and what he's doing, and it's hard to stay teamed up on that. But we're doing the best we can. So it's all good. So, Mr. David, in 3.0, will my MySQL backup feature be finished, or the MySQL table dump? No, we didn't build any backup stuff. There's nothing in here that has anything to do with backups or anything like that, and so don't have to worry about that. Let's see any other questions. I think I'd like to take the conversation to, and I'm going to open this up to a giant can of worms, and this is on purpose. And we'll just kind of see where this goes. I'd like to take this question to this self-hosted market idea. I mean, the self-serve plugin market idea. When you guys upload packages, it seems simple. Great, they show up in the market, they got a price, somebody buys them. I mean, it seems easy. But the reality is there's that's when all the work starts for you, the developer, and for us, the person who, made the 30 cents. And so the work comes in with the questions and the ratings and the comments, and it doesn't work, and all these kinds of things. And so what we're trying to do is establish ourselves as kind of the platform, and not making these plugins, and let you guys make all you want so that people will buy them and you can make some money. But in doing that, ultimately, we're not sure. It's either just completely open, upload the folder and it's instantly online, or like through a ratings thing. I just want to know if you guys have been thinking a little. I'm sure you've been thinking a lot about it. Do you think we should just embrace as open as it could possibly be and not worry about low quality stuff? I mean, it's going to happen. People are going to upload plugins that just don't work, and we just have to, I guess, be okay with that idea that it just happens. And somebody's going to show up, they're going to become a member, they're going to upload something for sale, and it's going to be garbage. So, and I wanted to just literally hear you guys talk about, like, what do you think? I mean, is that something we should be concerned about, not concerned about? We've spent 10 months trying to prevent that, and it turns out we definitely need to be self-serve. So anyway. Yeah, it's Monster saying, yeah, I think it's the only way to do it. Everyone suffers if we filter. I agree.
David, can I make my point about that?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's post a hand up in the chat, and then I'll just like call on you or whatever. Hand up, Thomas. What's up?
Right. Okay. One way to do this would be to just kind of ask other people to do it for you. So instead of having to like one or two people filter it down, get other plugin developers could kind of trade it, if you kind of see what I mean. Like other plugin developers would review your app, your plugin, if you reviewed their plugin, and then you might want to go through like 3 or 2 people, so it's not just.
Yeah. No, and I understand what you're saying, and Sue did a lot of work in that line of thinking, a ton. And what we found, though, and this is my concern, what we found was, Thomas, is no matter how many people are looking at somebody else's work, and no matter how skilled they are, it's subjective. And so when you put a plugin in the market and you put it in front of me, I might say this thing is awesome, but it's really not awesome. Or you might think it's horrible, or it's broken, or I didn't test it, or whatever. And so if it's endorsed by people, we talked about maybe the top 25 and having them, we even talked about, giving some people the plugin, letting them vouch for it before it became alive in the market. And then we decided that, that's probably not going to work because, I mean, let's face it, if you make something neat, you put it in the market, the first couple of days, you're going to make quite a bit of money on that plugin. After the first couple of days, the sales are going to taper off for you. And if you give it away for a couple of days to everyone who wants it, it's going to mean a significant difference to you and how much you made on it, earn money-wise. So we don't want to stifle that, and that's something that's really, really important. And so I think ultimately, I'm just asking the question too many times. Ultimately, it's just going to come down to ratings. It's like, you know what? If this thing's rated and it's good, it'll sell. And if it's not rated well, it just won't. And I guess we'll just have to be all right with that.
Well, I think it comes down to reputation too, the reputation of the developer and the community.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to find that that people will know that certain developers have plugins that work, certain ones don't. We still have the ability to turn off. If someone starts submitting crap, they're not going to have access to submit crap to us. If we know they're submitting crap and they don't know what they're doing, they're just trying to make a few bucks, before people get bad reviews in, that's going to get turned off. We're not going to allow that. But I just think it's really about reputation. I also think it's really cool to do like PSM Danny has done and build your own website with your own capacity for what you can do, and try to build your own reputation, running parallel to BuzzTouch's work.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we're going to run into, and Sherry just reminded me of this concept because it's really important. She just posted it in there. It's not bad code. They can't do anything to hurt anybody. It's not that. It's just these jokers who come along and they just they fill things up with spam. They fill the forum up with BS. They want to promote themselves. They want to take advantage of us, you, the developers, and us, the people who are giving them a platform for basically free. And it's just bad. Joe's saying, can you add a place for the public to view a video that the developer creates? Yeah, let's go to the plugin market. That already exists, and almost no one uses it. So if you go to the plugin market and you look at a plugin, if you add a YouTube video to your plugin, it'll have an icon right here. Right? I mean, people should already be doing things that seem logical that we just haven't helped them understand. And so it's
and look at Danny's nice screens. He's really selling his plugins too. He always does really well in the market. Look at his beautiful screens he's showing there too, about how the plugin can be used.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that it's going to be fine. I think that it's going to be fine, and it's not that big of a deal. I just get real sensitive to this because I've worked on this thing for so long that I'm worried. Really. I mean, if somebody lands on this site for the first time and there's a plugin market full of junk, right? BuzzTouch is not better off for that. They're just not. And so we've spent tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of, minutes, tens of thousands of hours trying to figure out, it's crazy. And so we finally come to the conclusion that we just can't do that, and we got to trust that it's going to work fine. And I think if we keep meeting and teaching and showing, I mean, ultimately, you're right, Sue. We can, just because it's self-serve doesn't mean that all of us developers have to tolerate some bozo.
Oh yeah.
The rest of us, if we decide this guy's out of here, he's out of here. We can do that. And so.
Sure, you had a comment, yeah, about if they sneak affiliate links in or sneak in things that aren't open source or things that we think are like shady that violates the terms of agreement. That would be things that we would.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm not gonna hyperventilate about that right now. I just wanted to kind of get the people's ideas. And so the way that it's going to work, let's talk a little bit about the process. I don't have a URL to show you, but it's really, really simple. The way this is going to work is you're going to make a plugin package without using a control panel if you want. You're just going to make a plugin package. It's going to have some iOS code and some Android code, and it's going to have the config file. There will be, just like there is now, but the one now is kind of ghetto, there will be a way to do like a little head start process where it'll make you all the class files for you and make you the config file for you, so you don't have to like fully understand all that stuff. But you don't have to do that in advance, is what I'm saying. You're going to go to your account. You're going to upload a plugin. You're going to do just like you did now, and you're going to set a price and describe it. You're going to say done. And as far as I'm concerned, it's in the market. End of story. It just is automatically there, and the ratings are going to start coming in. The challenge that we have is giving you developers a better way, to help people. Like we talked about the frequently asked questions. We talked about all this stuff. For now, I would just use the README file to address all that stuff, because everybody reads this. Everybody reads this. And the better your README file is, the better off you're going to be, and the more plugins you're going to sell. I mean, like look at Danny's, with the version history. I mean, it's really nice. And so that's key. That's key. So, what did Andy click here? Pimpmyplugin.com. That's awesome. It's super funny. So yeah, so I mean, you guys approve? Do you think that this new process with these screens and everything makes sense? Like the little JSON thing? I mean, is that too complicated, or is that good stuff?
Good stuff.
Okay, looks like it's good. Looks like it's a.
What about refunds, David, on plugins? Are we ready to handle refunds?
Are we ready to handle refunds?
Yeah, say we do. There's a handful today, but.
I'll stop talking and let you talk. So ask your question again.
Is BuzzTouch ready to handle refunds if we do have more requests for refunds with the new market?
Yeah, the way that it works right now is we don't intend to change this because it's working pretty well. The way that it works right now is, in theory, if you sell a plugin for $10 or $5 or $100, in theory, you read the little terms and all that stuff. If we give somebody their money back, then yeah, we could ask you to, we could ding you. in theory. We've never done that. We've never done it. Because the problem with that is you're not involved in the decision as to whether or not they deserve a refund. So if we give them a refund, then all of a sudden we take $12 from you, that's a little disingenuous, right? Because you're not the one who got to maybe have the dialogue with the customer. You're not the one who got the flaming email. You're not the one who even knows. So what we've done to this point is we've just given them a refund and moved on and not even hit the developer and not even brought it up. We were worried about that. And as it's turned out, it almost never happens. People very rarely ask us for their $5 back. It has happened. It has happened. And I think that's just because of the nature of what we do. I mean, this is open source stuff. We're trying to help. When you make a plugin, you're trying to help somebody. I think that there's a difference between just, trying to cash out and actually trying to make a cool screen. And so I think people respect that. I think that'll change big time when somebody throws a plugin in the market that's $100 and the expectation's up to here. And you start trying to sell something for $100 and it's not badass, rest assured they're going to want their money back. And when they want their money back, it costs us a lot of money just to process the refund. Is $4 or $5. It's crazy. And so at that point, yeah, I guess we'd have to send an email to the developer and get them involved before we decided. I don't know. Maybe there's a resolution process or something. Who knows? I'm not worried about it. Got a bunch of questions here. Make new plugin developers have to donate, say like 2 or 3 plugins for instead of pricing the plugins, sweeping the tester quality, improving it. Yeah, Danny's asking a question, making a comment like we've actually talked a little bit about before. He's saying, look, you can't set prices on your plugins until you make a couple of free ones, basically. Right? Make a couple of free things, put them in the market, get a few ratings, and then you can sell them. That does make a little bit of sense. I don't like the idea of making plugins for free as much as I like the idea of saying, look, if you've got enough BuzzTouch points and you're in the top 25 and you're a member and you're obviously part of our community, maybe that's a different measuring stick before you can put a price on it. Something along those lines. I like that. I like that. The original idea was it was going to be free for a couple of days, but then we decided, wait a minute, that's really bad because the people who really would have bought it and want to buy it now aren't allowed to buy it because it's free. So that's not good. Monster's saying, as harsh as it is, no refunds, it makes the entire process very complicated. Like Thomas said, there's no reason why Apple doesn't do it, or the reason why Apple doesn't do it. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, Monster. And what we might have to do is we might have to set a maximum price somehow. But again, now we're muddying the waters of open source. We're muddying the waters. So I'm not worried. I just want us all to be aware that these are things that we think about all the time. And we'll kind of go from there. The other thing that we can do is we don't have to refund them actual cash. Right? Sometimes we've done things like given them more market credit to buy something else. That doesn't cost us the same amount of money. We've actually given people like next year's membership fee free, that kind of thing. One guy put like $200 into his account, bought a bunch of stuff. He spent like $200 on plugins, and it just turned out that he was super happy and super excited and super willing to participate with us, but it was way over his head. Like this was not the choice for him. This was not the solution for him. And you have to honor that. I mean, he's a good person. He's trying to make an app. He didn't realize that this is a pretty technical solution we have, with compiling and all this stuff. And so what do? You end up giving his money, but we don't ask all the developers for that because it gets complicated. But there's cases like that where, yeah, we've done it, and that's a part of going from everything free to trying to run a business. You have these new challenges that you have to deal with. The hardest part of this business is keeping it capitalized. Sending out thousands of dollars every time the plugin pays go. It's hard. It's hard, but we're doing all right. We're doing all right. So, saying, yeah, I know there's some cases where their kids spent $1,000 and Apple gave them a refund. Yeah, totally. There's all kinds of case studies where.
I think I'll turn off the recording now because I try to keep it a little shorter so they aren't quite so hard to get put into YouTube. But